As we're moving forward into this whole modesty phase that's going on right now, we have to question, is modesty rooted in misogyny? Now, when we think of modesty, we think of clothing that fully covers our body, and that's the trend that a lot of women are moving towards, which I think is great. There's nothing wrong with it. However, I think the way that it's framed, especially in religion, is you're covering yourself for your future husband. You're covering yourself because your body belongs to your future husband. And that's where it gets a little misogynistic, especially because when we start to think of the flip side, okay, if modest women are the women that are worthy of respect, then the women who aren't dressed modestly aren't deserving of respect. And the sort of idea is that when they're wearing clothes that are showing more skin, they're doing so because they are welcoming that lust. And I'm telling you, you as a conscious, breathing, thinking person, you might be like, who thinks like that? I'm telling you, a lot of people do. I've seen so many posts that are like, when you dress a certain way, you're encouraging and you're inviting lust. And it's just like, do you think everything women do is for men? Oh my gosh, like what happened to fashion? A lot of women, me included, I view myself as like a doll, a mannequin when I'm getting dressed. It's not, oh, I think men are gonna look at me when I put this on. No, I'm trying to be fly. It's not about that. I'm not even thinking about that, to be honest. This is just a mannequin that I'm choosing to dress, and it has nothing to do with how I'm going to be perceived by men. I promise you, that's the last thing on our minds. If I feel like a picture is very aesthetically pleasing, oh, this is going on Pinterest. Maybe I won't upload it, but somebody will. Best believe it's gonna be posted. And for me to sit there and be like, I think the men are going to lust after this. I think they're going to look at me crazy. Maybe I won't post it. I'm limiting myself. Whether you want to admit it or not, I'm limiting myself. And the conversation regarding modesty says that, yes, women, you should limit yourself. You should see things in the frame of man, because ultimately you belong to a man, because you're going to be married to a man one day. And that man that you're going to marry one day, and you're going to take his last name, and he's just not liking what you're showing now, and that's just not fair to him. What I don't like with this modesty conversation is that it is very binary. One side of the conversation says, if you want to be respected as a woman in this world, you must dress modestly. You have to cover up. Nothing can be showing. And then the other side is, well, if you don't dress like that, you're encouraging lust. You're encouraging men to look at you however they want to look at you. And there's so much more to the conversation. Post-colonial white standards see the female figure, women's bodies, as inherently sexual. What that means is that if a woman is at the beach and she got on her little bikini and it's a little skimpy, because why, it might be 99 degrees, okay, that when a man looks at her any type of way, that's fine, because her figure is inherently sexual. Do you guys know about what's going on in Afghanistan right now? Women have been oppressed over there for a long time, but it is quite literally getting worse. Women have to be fully covered, face, hair, bodies, unless it's around a man who is immediate family or their spouse. Women are not allowed into certain establishments, parks. Women are not allowed to speak too loud. Women are not seen as autonomous beings. How they're viewed is through the perception of a man. This is my thing, right? If you create a world where women need to be covered, because if she's not covered, she is subject to the gaze of a man, then you are submitting to the idea that men cannot control themselves, that men cannot control their eyes. And the more we accept that idea, and the more we encourage that line of thinking, the more men accept their animalistic tendencies as innate to their gender. So if we're gonna sit and we're gonna be like, yes, women need to be modest in order to be respected, then you are placing the responsibility not onto the men, but onto the woman for how she presents herself. And that is directly in the lines of misogyny. I don't know how many of you saw the Barbie movie, but there was a scene in which Barbie has on her cute little outfit and she's covered up. And the men make a little joke like, oh my gosh, she's covered up, there's more for us to imagine. And that's kind of the headliner for modesty. You have to leave something up to imagination. So that means that even when I'm covered up, I'm still being imagined in a sexual light. I've heard this many times, but word on the streets is that when men meet an attractive woman, and listen, if you're a man watching this and you're like, well, I don't do that, are you the only man on earth? Anyways, I've heard, and it's good if you don't do that, but I've heard that when certain men meet an attractive woman, one of the first things they do in their head is that they imagine having sex with her. And this is my thing, right? When we're talking about modesty and we're saying to women, well, in order for you to be respected and in order for you to not be lusted after, you need to cover yourself up. You are placing the responsibility of not being lusted after onto the woman. Not the person who's doing the lusting, but the woman who's being lusted after. The victim of the predatory nature of men. You get what I'm saying? And then to the modest women who often look down on these other women because they're low-key taught that in the whole like modesty thing that goes on, and when they start moving down this timeline, they start to look down on other women. Are you saying, and do you believe that, well, my dress is down to my ankles, why is he looking at me like that? He needs to look at the other girl who got her little short skirt on. That's who he needs to go after. You get what I'm saying? And you can't really have these conversations about modesty without asking yourself what happens to the other women, because at the end of the day, there are women who don't give a damn about what men want. That's in marriage, that's in life. They don't care. They live their life as it is theirs, as women should. And not to say that you don't. You're entitled to do whatever you wish, but you cannot try to look down on another woman because of her personal choices in her life. Now, remember how I referenced the Taliban and the Muslim faith, where they cover themselves up. They cover their hair, they cover their bodies, and they cover their faces. You know, the ones that only have their eyes showing. That's not all of them, and I understand that a lot of women choose this as well. But you see what kind of world that creates, right? And you have to ask yourself, is that modesty just turned up a little bit? Because what they're asking you to do is manage a man's predatory nature, when that is not our job as women. It's just not. Men really don't understand women at all, and they don't have the desire to understand women because they truly live in a world where it is framed to them that how a woman is dressed is directly correlated to how she wants to be viewed and interacted with, and modesty supports that. Do you really think that on a day where it's 100 degrees outside and a woman got on a tank top, and, you know, she got a little belly showing, she got some booty shorts, and do you really think that when she was walking out the house, she was like, yeah, they gonna love this, they gonna love this, I can't wait to hear that Ayo Ma when I'm walking down the street? You have to question and maybe even acknowledge that there's a sprinkle, maybe a lot, of misogyny into that line of thinking. There is. Because like I said over and over, you are placing the responsibility of being lusted after onto the woman. The response to this is always, let's just be realistic, that's how men are. And that's my problem. Do you guys think every man is the problem? Consider your fathers, consider your brothers, consider your male friends. Do you think every single one of them is like that? And if you are a man, do you think that there is an inner predator within you? Do you think that you cannot control your gaze? If you think that it's not all men, and if you as a man think, well, certainly not me, then you have to acknowledge that it's capable for men to change. It is. Because I'm so tired of the world kind of just, oh, that's just how men are. That's how they're going to stay if we keep saying that. This society coddles men. They treat them like children. You know how you tell kids don't stare, it's rude? But when men stare, it's the woman's fault? And not acknowledge modesty without acknowledging the gender apartheid that's going on in Afghanistan. And then you can't acknowledge modesty without acknowledging colonialism and what it did to our brains, and how it just coddles men and tells them that it's okay to be predatory. There's so much policing that goes on to women, and there's so little policing that goes on with men, right? Because when women choose a faith, there's this sort of training that goes on, like, okay, you chose a faith, you're gonna marry a wonderful husband, so you need to change how you dress, you need to change how you speak, you need to be modest, you need to be classy. Maybe it's just because I don't step into men's business too much, but I don't recall seeing content about making men into better men. Maybe there are spaces like that, and if they are, share them, because I want to share them. I don't see any courses on, men, you should control your gaze, but I'm seeing, make sure you cover up because they can't control their gaze. You see how that just doesn't make sense? You're literally policing this one group of people and not the other. I did write a little essay that summarized what I'm saying. If you want to look at it, it'll be in the description. This is my first video on here, so I just want to make it clear. When I present stuff to you, when I have these conversations, I'm not presenting to you as intake what I'm saying, intake. No, I'm presenting it to you in a way of question. You need to be thinking. Turn your brain on and think. Even the things that I say, I might disagree with tomorrow, and I might come back and make another video. That's ultimately what I want to provoke thought, because a lot of women are intaking a lot of value systems like modesty, and they are not realizing that there is some connection to misogyny, and when you adopt that mindset very blindly, you find yourself walking the same paths of these predatory men, and you don't even realize it. Another thing I encourage is research. Look into what is going on in Afghanistan right now. Look into Modesty. Look into where Modesty began. Look into the opposite of where women started to dress more freely. Look into Free to Knit, because let me tell you something right now, from a woman, if you're a man watching this, bras are uncomfortable. I don't know any woman who wakes up in the morning happy to put her bra on. But if I choose, okay, let me not wear my bra and my nippies are showing, and now I'm getting looked at crazy from men and women because my nippies are showing, but I just want to be comfortable. You get what I'm saying? It's just so unfair that our fashion choices, the way that we dress, the way that we are perceived is through the gaze of men, even from other women, because some other women have adopted that mindset as well. They've been conditioned to do that. You can't place the responsibility to not be lusted after onto women. You need to encourage the men to change. You need to encourage the men to control their gaze. You can choose where your eyeballs go. You are a conscious human being. Men can control where they look. The men can control how they view women. The men can control how they interact with women. And that's what I need to see more of. Not this, make sure you cover up. No, I want to see, watch where you're looking. Watch how you treat women. I just need to see men being coached. Because all this on women is just like, yo, since the beginning of time, there needs to be more pressure on men to become better men, and less pressure on women to become better subjects for men. I really don't want this conversation to be framed as binary, as the conversation usually is, of walk outside with basically nothing. I'm not encouraging that, and I'm also not saying that there's anything wrong with modesty. I think it's cool. You can be fly as hell and modest. I'm actually really loving that trend on TikTok right now. Girls in your 20s, this is what you could wear and still be fly and modest. Like, it's cute. You know, when you get into a debate with somebody and then you go home, you get in the shower and you're just like, damn, I should have said this, and this. That just happened. So it's the next day. If we start to get into this idea of modesty, we start to micromanage what women are wearing. The goal is not to show your figure. The goal is to show as little as possible. I just saw this reel on Instagram. It's 4 black girls that are showing off their church outfits, fully covered. You really cannot see much. But in the comments, oh, this is too tight. A lot of black women are very shapely, okay? So when we start to say, okay, well, I'm not trying to see your figure. If you're trying to be modest, I don't want to see anything. Do you know what black women are gonna have to go through? So when we start to police what these women wear, it also gets into how different shapes and different body types are perceived. And if you were a high schooler whose school had a strict dress code, then you've seen this in real time, where the slim girl, she could wear short shorts and nobody says a thing, but the thick girl puts on them shorts and she's in the office real quick. You get what I'm saying? And that's the same thing with modesty. On this reel, I'm telling you, these women are fully covered. These women are fully covered. You really can't see anything. But because they have a shape on them, okay, you can see that shape. But do you expect her to dress like Adam Sandler, baggy tee, baggy pants all the time because she wants to be modest? You can't have these conversations without having those conversations. You can't really play all of these respectability politics with a woman when at the end of the day, nobody is telling these men to change. Nobody is sitting there and breaking down these mindsets in their head and doing the work to rewire how they think about women, to rewire how they interact with women. Because whether you want to admit it or not, the girl with booty shorts on and a tank top and the girl who got the dress to her ankles, they're both deserving of respect. I don't think there's an issue in choosing to be modest. That's fine. That's your personal choice. But I just want you to think about that value system in depth, truly understand it, and make sure that you're truly choosing it for you.